Hey everyone, it's ID with Hush Hush Magazine. Today's video is just kind of a free-form type of rant. I wanted to talk a bit about the pressure, especially as somebody with kinky hair, the pressure as a Black woman to wear weaves. And this is not something that is specific to just the US. I think this is probably worldwide. And so, yeah, I just wanted to do a little 5-minute open-ended talk about my thoughts on it and my experience on it and see what you guys think. And so that's it. Let's get into it. So for as long as I can remember, okay, maybe not as long as I can remember, probably since I was like 8 years old, I think is my first memory of my mom actually making me wear a weave. And I remember thinking that it was so ridiculous because at that time, the only association I had with weaves was old women. Because in my community, I only knew that my mom and other aunties would wear little wigs whenever they didn't have time to get their hair permed or get braids or get some other hairstyle. And so there were two things that were kind of instilled to me at a young age. Number one, that for some reason, wearing natural hair as a kid sometimes is okay, but it seemed like the adults preferred to not wear their natural hair. And when they had their natural hair and couldn't do braids or do some other socially acceptable style, they would rather throw an ugly, weird wig over it than to actually have their own natural hair. That was the first thing. And then number two, to me, the wigs looked like clearly and obviously shiny and weird. At that time, this was like, what, 2001, 2002? At that time, we didn't have all the super nice synthetic weaves and wigs that we have today, or even like some of the human hair. Maybe we had human hair wigs. I don't know. But that's not the one that was kind of like most popularly in circulation. The stuff that I saw were just like clearly kind of fake and like weird and like shiny and like plastic, and like, why would I want to put this on my head? So it was super confusing to me as a kid of what the obsession was for my mom. But as I grew older, I started to realize, and I think other people started to tell me as well, like, oh, you think that's Britney Spears' real hair? Like, that's a weave. Oh, you think that's Beyonce's real hair? Like, that's a wig. Like, all these references of like all these celebrities and people that were kind of considered beautiful or glamorous or popular wearing hair that is not theirs. And so it was something that was kind of like at the back of my mind, but I still wasn't really giving it that much thought. But what I did know is that as I became a teenager, I knew that doing all the treatments that my mom had me doing on my hair, of like perming it, straightening it, chemical, whatever, this, that, and the other, she used to pay for it. But then when I got to college, it was kind of up to me. And I was like, I have a limited budget. So if I have this $40, $50, I'm not going to spend it straightening my hair. I'm going to spend it on food. I'm going to spend it on tuition, books, like whatever, more essential things. So that was kind of when I started transitioning to my natural hair, in the sense that I stopped chemically straightening my hair, perming my hair, etc. And I started trying to figure out, like, what do I do with this super kinky hair? I had, my afro, and as you guys have seen in my other videos, it's super tight coils, tends to get dry, tends to get tangled. And it was, I would say, like half frustrating for me to figure out what to do with my natural hair, but also really fun because it was the first time in my life where I had full control over, how I wanted my hair to look and what I wanted to do. And I would say that for the most part, I felt pretty comfortable with my hair and didn't think too much about it. It wasn't until I graduated from college that then this question of like wearing a weave or wearing a wig started to come in. And I'll definitely say it's been the strongest these past 2 years that have been in LA. You guys might see I have another video on my channel about dating in LA, and talking a little bit about colorism and featureism. And part of that is this idea that it is sexier or prettier or more beautiful to have nice natural hair. Natural hair movement has really evolved a lot since when I went natural, when I was, a teenager slash really early adult. At that time, it was not cute. It was not cool to have natural hair. So when I cut my hair and was rocking like a Lupita Nyong'o kind of look, my mom hated it. And a lot of people just looked at me like, oh, bold, daring, wow. No one came up to me and said like, you look beautiful. You look incredible. I love this for you. None of that. So now that the natural hair movement is super mainstream, what I found super interesting is that in general, especially when you look at a lot of YouTube videos or Instagram posts, I feel like a big percentage of the content that you see and the messaging that you see is still tailored towards people with relatively loose curls. And that was kind of what made me start this YouTube channel. And that's why a lot of my initial videos are talking about my hair and, just putting it out there. Because I didn't see that many people with my type of hair on YouTube or on media. And I was like, I know we're out there. I know there are 10 out there. I know friends who have hair just like mine. But, we kind of have all these messages from our moms, from social media, from families, from friends, from school, from work, telling us that our kind of hair is undesirable and we shouldn't put it out there. So, of course, it makes sense that people are not going to be taking a bunch of photos of, kinky, coily 4D hair and putting it out there on the streets to be judged and critiqued. And I even saw this issue as well when I was working on my blog and I was trying to look for photos of hair that looked like mine. Super hard, guys. Try it for yourself. Very, very difficult. Most of the black hair, when you type in natural black hair, that you're going to see will be like looser curls. Anyway, all of that is to say that living in LA with all the futurism, colorism, struggling with dating, hit on self-esteem, all the things, really made me start thinking in a serious way for the first time ever in my life. Like, damn, should I get a wig? Or should I get a weave? I had never considered it in any serious way before, but living in LA made me do that because it just felt like the way that I was looking and the way that I am was just not enough, and I needed to do more. And obviously, like, I went through that whole train of thought and finally landed back in the same place of like, I'm perfectly awesome and beautiful and wonderful exactly the way I am. The problem is not me. The problem is the people of LA, which again, I have that in my other video. But it did start putting me into that mindset. And you guys know how social media and ads work. Once you start kind of entertaining a certain train of thought, I started seeing like certain influencers or certain people posting certain things and I started liking it. And before you know, I'm getting ads for, different weaves and different wigs that are kind of either like, it's natural. It kind of mimics like my natural hair, but like kind of like maybe if I straightened it out. So it's like kinky straight hair or like kinky coily hair, but it's like with these perfect little rings that are like really cute and not actually how my hair looks. Just like all these different varieties of natural hair that are kind of like more acceptable and whatever that were being advertised to me. And because of how frugal I am, most of the time, even though I was super tempted, I would end up being like, nah, I'm not doing it, because they're not cheap, guys. Like a lot of these wigs and weaves are like $100 plus, easily $200. And apparently there's this whole thing of like customizing a wig, which I didn't even know about, that one of my friends told me about. And that can easily get you into like a $300 plus range. And, you know, people spend money on these things. I am not one of those women that spends that much money on my looks. So I didn't get into it mostly because of how basic I am when it comes to money. I'm very intentional. But I really wanted it. And even till now, I would kind of say like I still really want to try it. But you know, whatever it is that made me not buy it and not do it, I'm super glad that I didn't. But at the same time, I think that there's always space and flexibility to try a different hairstyle and see how it makes you feel and see if that's the path that you want to pursue. So who knows? Maybe one day I will finally buy it and try it out. And maybe I will find that it actually kind of, you know, brings towards me the kind of energy and the type of interactions that I would like to experience here in Los Angeles, just from making that one small change. I don't have strong confidence that it actually will, but I think it would be an interesting hypothesis to test out, an interesting little experiment to run. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the only real issue is just like what's at the root of it and what your mindset is and how it makes you feel. And so I think me operating on that basis of like, oh, I need this in order to be beautiful or in order to be desired, that's problematic. And I think that thinking, you know, it's not cool, and it takes work, therapy, meditation, whatever it is, talking to your friends to kind of shift that mindset, realize that you are great the way that you are. But then if you still at that point come to peace with that and revive your self-esteem, but you still are like, you know, I want to try this thing out because let's just see what happens, then I think to me that makes sense and that's totally fine. So I don't know. I don't have any particular goal with this video. I just kind of wanted to put these thoughts out there, see if anybody else has been, you know, struggling or debating back and forth with this topic of like weaves and wigs or no. I know one of my family friends who is gorgeous and amazing. She will switch between her natural hair and wigs and weaves. And she even said, like, even though she's the same person, she does notice she gets very different treatment from the world when she has her wigs and her weaves on versus when she has her natural hair on. And she's gorgeous either way. And so I thought that was interesting that even she notices that, like, her treatment is drastically different, that, you know, maybe people pay a bit more attention to her or are nicer to her, sweeter to her. More flexible with her when she has the wigs and the weaves on. And so again, it's kind of like, if you know inside you, like, I'm great the way I am, but the way you want to just circumvent